I need to redeem myself after the last episode. I tried something, I failed something, and now I'm going to succeed. Viens, petit garçon, dans mon émission, viens faire des choses, réclamer la ville, mumbles Newton West, crossé por Talbot, Davis, Sir Davies.
Why?
Yeah, that was... I tried to make up the parody on the spot to an obscure Serge Gainsbourg song, and this time I succeeded. So.
Except this time, you didn't do it on the spot. I know for a fact that was pre-prepared, and therefore it doesn't count, Louis.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it again next time.
Okay.
Because you ain't redeemed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. It was a good day. It was good. It's good. And
Thank you.
And my A star in GCSE French means I understand exactly what you were saying. You were describing the plot of Mine or Mine.
I was. Hello and welcome back to Davis on Davis. You are listening to the gorgeous, charming Zac Copeland-Green and the dark, brooding, gender-confused wolf, Louis Davis.
Did you just call me gorgeous live on air? Whoa, Louis. Whew. Louis, I'm not single.
Oh, right, yes, sorry.
I'm joking. You can call me gorgeous all you like.
Good, because charming on its own sounded a bit weird, so I needed to not give away the joke there too quickly.
It works for the villain in Shrek the Third.
Well, it's the opening of Shrek 2.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been a while since...
Later on, the fairy godmother describes the wolf as gender confused wolf.
Oh.
And I just relate to that a bit. You know?
Oh, right. We're on the same page. I just wasn't aware we were on the same page.
Okay.
It's been a while. Again, I'm opening the curtain for all to see behind the scenes, but it has been a while since we've recorded. Though the schedule has remained consistent thanks to the amazing powers of Louis.
You're welcome. Yes, I it's great when I do an episode, I can just put it online and say, don't post it yet. Wait until this date, until this time, and then post it. We have technology now. You know.
It's kind of crazy because I remember in the days where if you wanted to do a podcast, you just opened the window and screamed.
Yes.
That's a butchering of a joke from a comedian I heard at the Edinburgh Fringe. Because that's where I've been this summer. Woohoo! I've finally been. And Louis was also there. Woohoo!
Yes.
Briefly.
It was so much fun. I saw a lot of the shows, but one of the shows I saw was Anti-Heroin, which Zac co-produced. Now, I arrived on like a Tuesday, and that's like one of the first shows I saw on the Wednesday. And so when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is a very good show, very well written, very well directed, very well acted. I loved it. Amazing. But then after that, I saw like sort of loads of shows and really got a sense of like what the Fringe is. And I realized that like, oh my goodness, this festival is absolutely massive. There is so much stuff to see, and you will see a mere fraction of it. No matter how long you're there, you will just see a tiny sliver of it. And, you know, all these shows sort of vying for your attention and stuff. And so to sell out as so many shows as you did is a real achievement. And as a co-producer, publicity was, you know, a big part of what you were doing. And I was really quite in awe. And I came to see you on like your final closing night to say congratulations. And at that point, I realized just how impressive you are, basically.
Well, I'm nodding my head in appreciation.
Yes.
Because it was a stroke of luck as well that we were so successful and that we had a journalist from the esteemed newspaper, the Scotsman, review us and name us one of the top 5 theatre shows from the Fringes opening weekend. Yes, I had to plug that there. But it was a stroke of luck. And you say to sell out so many shows, we did only sell out a third, which doesn't actually sound like a lot, but there are so many shows where 2 people... I mean, I went to see a comedian and there were 6 of us in the audience, and I felt he seemed like a really great guy. That it was a difficult hour to sit through when there is basically no audience there for a stand-up comedian.
Well, exactly.
And you can't just walk out. So no, it was an achievement, but we mustn't get too big for our boots because I'm now back sat at home recording the Davis on Davis podcast. Like nothing has changed. I've remembered my humble roots.
Yes.
I I would like to say I saw two really, really great comedians, and it's just occurred to me that I want to mention them here, even though I'm sure it ain't going to boost their careers to be mentioned by me on the Davis on Davis podcast. But appropriately,
go ahead.
One of the two best things I saw at the Fringe was recommended to me by you, Louis, and we actually went together, didn't we?
Ah, wow.
Yeah, you're surprised. I did a roundup and I was like, actually, this guy was one of the best things I've seen, and I wouldn't have stumbled across him unless you booked tickets for him.
Ah, yes, Huge Davis.
Huge Davis. Woo! The Davis on Davis crew went to see Huge Davis. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, it was. We've added another. This is our fourth Davis now.
Huge Davis on the podcast when?
Or no, it's our fifth. Okay, so there's me, one. There's Russell T Davies, obviously,
who hasn't been on the podcast, sadly.
No, but there's guest Owen Davis,
who has been on the podcast.
There's Alan Davis,
who hasn't been on the podcast,
and now there's Huge Davis,
who is also yet to be on the podcast. But Huge, we're coming for you.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible show,
and I'm not massive into musical comedy, but he just walked onto stage with a keyboard strapped to him, and then basically proceeded to hate on us for an hour.
Yes,
and maybe it's an awoken to sort of like a sort of a shame kink that maybe I have. But I just
oh my god, I was gonna make the same joke. I think you're right though. We're psychically in agreement. We just know.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Just he sang songs passed down from his ancestors.
Yes,
that all seem to resemble popular Hollywood movies. It was fantastic.
Yes.
And then the second thing that I recommend is my number one, my top thing that I saw at the Fringe. It was after I went to see another stand-up comic of an evening with my good friend Pip, who's a friend of the show, who has been on the show. We went to see a comic that I wanted to see. Very, very middle of the road. It was funny, but not blow your socks off. It was a Sunday evening. The audience wasn't too full, so maybe that was to blame. But we were wandering back around 11 o'clock, and we got flyered for a show that started in 10 minutes, and we thought, ooh, let's just go. And it was in a yurt. It wasn't in a big fancy venue. It was in a yurt. And so we sat in a yurt and thought, okay, well, this is either going to be a big mistake or the best thing we've ever seen. And it turned out to be the best thing we've ever seen. It was a young 27-year-old comedian, his first time at the Fringe, called Alex Kitson, who just... wow, it was a laugh every 5 seconds. It was a breakneck pace.
Yeah, I think I saw his name in the like best jokes of the Fringe list.
One of his jokes was named the third best joke at the Fringe.
Yeah.
Ironically, it was a joke that I think he cut out of the show by the time I actually saw it for the first time.
Okay.
But then I think he's since put it back in since it's been named one of the best jokes.
Yeah.
No, and he's just finished his run at Edinburgh, and he's not got anything else planned, but I do think the name Alex Kitson will be a name that you hear. You heard it here first. Well, probably not first because other people are onto him, but I've got my eyes on him.
Yeah, I'm going to give two comedians I liked. So apart from
Huge Davis,
which was, incredible, and I'm so glad that I was able to share that experience with you, Zac.
Whoa.
It was an experience.
It was, yeah.
And I think with musical comedy, a lot of the time, it's like there'll be like a sort of a germ, an idea for like a song, a funny kind of hook, and then the chorus kind of stays the same, and it doesn't develop past that, and you're like, this could have just been a joke. But like everything in this show, these all needed to be songs. All of the hilarious, absurd, crazy ideas could only be expressed in song form. So I think it did the concept of musical comedy justice. I saw another musical comedy, although it's quite different because it was part of the kind of the pay what you want Fringe. So it was completely unticketed. You just like queue up beforehand, and it turned out that you did have to get there kind of early because it was quite popular. It was filling up very quickly. Just a room full of 30 people, and an Australian comedian, Aidan Jones, with a piano, and he played a piece of Chopin. I think it was a nocturne, while talking about his life, how he was going to go to a conservatory to study piano, but then he got into MDMA and, failed that audition and then became a comedian. But he kind of talked about his life and like Chopin's life, and while playing the song and explaining each part of the music. And it was just really, really well put together. And it was so interesting because he has like this kind of, his sort of style delivery is quite sort of typical for an Australian comedian. That's sort of quite like boisterous, lots of like foul language and all that stuff. That sort of added to the depth because it just wasn't what you'd expect, but it was so interesting. Yeah, and then the other comedian I'm gonna say I liked is actually, okay, so this comedian at the end of his show recommended Aidan Jones, so you also have him to thank for me saying what I just said just now. And the thing is, he's already my favourite comedian, so I was sort of expecting to like it, and I did. He's sort of on top form, as good as ever, guy named Milo Edwards. However, I did, at the end of a show, go up to him and embarrass myself in front of Milo Edwards by talking about Zac. So what happened is, so Milo Edwards does a number of podcasts. That's sort of how I discovered him kind of initially. And then I was like, oh, his stand-up is also really good. And I've seen like all his sort of stand-up shows since Pindos, which is the one about when he was in Russia from a few years back. And I said to him, oh, yeah, I love your stuff. And then for some reason, I didn't keep walking, so I just stood there and I was like, wait, I need to say something now. And in my head I was thinking, he talks about how he has a lot of weird fan interactions, I need to not be weird. That's what was running through my head. And so what I said naturally was, you inspired me to start a podcast with a Cambridge classicist. That's because he also did classics at Cambridge. And he said like, I'm sorry to hear that, which is totally what he would say. And then for some reason, then I was like, that's not actually true, but I did do that though. Like I was like, why did I need to clarify? Like clearly I was making a joke. I feel like he would be able to spot jokes if anyone.
Yeah. Comedian.
I'm just so scared of being misinterpreted in front of my idols. And the thing is, if it's a comedian I like, I can be normal. I can be like, yeah, that was really good. Like at the end of Aidan Jones's show, I was like, yeah, that was really good. And then did like the pay what you want thing. And but with this one, it's because it's my favorite. It's in a sense an idol of mine. It's I just have to be weird. That's just the law of nature.
Hopefully you'll make it onto one of his jokes in the future set.
Yes.
And you'll be able to go, that's me.
Yes.
So how insufferable do we sound that you have described this as a podcast you started with the Cambridge classicist? Like I know last episode with Owen, we were talking about some pretty like geeky stuff and we brought up a lot of Latin.
Yeah. But like, I find that for some reason, I really like that because sort of making sort of quite vulgar humor out of those niche topics is actually something that Milo Edwards does on his podcast.
Well, so Milo Edwards, here's an open invite to come join the guys at
come when we cover Years and Years. Please talk to us about that show because he actually did cover Years and Years once. And,
well, there we go.
Yeah, not favourably, I should add.
Oh, okay. Well, that was we'll save that. We'll put a pin in that.
Yes. I
feel like now I normally turn to you and say how are you, but we've already been talking all for a while.
Yeah, we have. I mean, anything else to say you've done apart from the Fringe?
I went to the Edinburgh Fringe, then did the Camden Fringe, and I whilst I was in London I also went to the Royal Albert Hall to the Doctor Who prom, but I spend most of my life on this show talking about Doctor Who, and I want to make it seem like I have a wide variety of interests that don't just revolve around one singular science fiction television show.
Yeah.
So I just ignore the fact that I just had a transcendental experience at the Royal Albert Hall the other night and just say, no, I've done absolutely nothing.
Okay. I think I had the opposite of a transcendental experience because so after Edinburgh, I was on a little camping holiday and I was just like, detached from the world, reading a book, sort of very nice to sort of not kind of have to worry about life and stuff. But I read a book about sort of a hypothetical technology called memory externalization and the collective consciousness, where you have your memories copied out of your head and then put into a system where they get anonymized and then anyone can sort of look at them, searching based on like, not searching on based on the person, but searching on like the sort of the time and location. It's kind of like turning everyone into like a CCTV camera and whatever. But I sort of had the opposite of ego death. Because, like, instead of sort of feeling at one with the universe, I felt very much trapped in my body because it's like, I will never do this. Hi, quick editor's note. I never actually mentioned what the book is called. It's The Candy House by Jennifer Egan. Of course, in Mine All Mine, we've got a whole different Candy to think about. The character of Candy, that is. played by Joanna Page. I will never know what you had for breakfast. I don't know why I suddenly want to know, but the fact that I'm reading about a world where that's possible to know, suddenly I'm like, well, now I want to know, yeah.
I had crunchy nut for breakfast, Louis.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Other cereal brands are available, is what I would say if we were on BBC Sounds right now. It's funny that you bring this up after we just briefly mentioned years and years. It's giving years and years.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about years and years today. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about Mine or Mine, and we are going to have such a normal episode today. We're not going to go on big tangents. We're not going to make these call forwards to shows we haven't reviewed yet, and we're definitely not going to get into age gap discourse.
Oh gosh, I was going to say there's no one to distract us. This is our first episode in a while since we finished up Bob and Rose that we've not had anyone join us. It's just been guest after guest after guest. So you're right.
Yeah.
There's nobody here to distract us except the show itself.
Double Dragon, baby.
Woo. It's worth noting, because it feels ages since I was the first episode, that we ended the last episode with Max Vivaldi, that's the patriarch of the Vivaldi family, being told that the last will and testament he has hanging on his wall that basically would mean he owns the whole of Swansea checks out, and he actually legally owns the whole of Swansea, except that he doesn't, because his dad is still in a care home and he's technically the patriarch of the family.
That's where we leave off. And with this episode, we start with Max getting home, trying to see who else is home, is there any of his family at home, and finding the letter that his wife Val left when she sort of ditched the house and went over to the Eggman, who she loves and wants to be with. So she's left Max for the Eggman and left a note about it. The note doesn't specify who she's with, so he can't sort of track her down. But he sees that. He opens the letter, reads it, and then puts it back. He decides, I'm going to put it back, and then goes down to the suits who are all saying, hey, we've got to sort all this legal stuff. And he's like, no, I want you to get me on the news tomorrow morning. He's cooking. He's cooking something up here. He's got a plan.
It's quite an interesting piece of psychology that he's just had this moment that he's waited his entire life for, and then boom, finds out through a letter that his wife has left him. But then in comes his eldest daughter, and he's got all these different things coming on this. He says, no, I want everyone to wake up tomorrow morning and know what has happened. It's a really interesting frame of mind that he's in, that then he carries on throughout the whole episode of, he's clearly very overwhelmed, but he takes it in his stride.
He's entered a fugue state.
Yeah, you almost expect him to lash out, and I almost expected it to take longer for him to find out about Val leaving him / cheating on him.
Yeah, exactly, because it turns out that the mystery with Val and Max is actually on Val's side. She then spends the episode trying to figure out if he saw the note.
Yeah. Noticeably, we see Max lick the envelope and seal it back up and leave it on the pillow.
Yes, but I thought if he folds it back in, then that's how it looks like it was never touched, because she didn't lick it, I don't think.
No, but he isn't thinking of that. He doesn't realise that she wouldn't lick an envelope, because he's thinking, everyone licks an envelope.
No, yeah, it is kind of odd to not lick an envelope. That's sort of what they're for,
Yeah, exactly.
You're not licking any other bits of paper.
No. Although technically, I believe we're not supposed to anymore, ever since that thing in 2020 happened. But who knows?
Oh right, yes, that thing, yes.
Sorry,
not like there's an episode of Seinfeld where a character licks some toxic envelopes and then dies.
Oh, I shouldn't have laughed.
No, well, it's a comedic show. It's sort of.
Then I can laugh.
Yes, you are allowed, because you get the envelopes where you peel off the sticker and it reveals a sticky service.
Yeah,
like you get with double-sided tape.
Yes, exactly. We skip to the following morning where the newspapers and the paparazzi and the TV and the radio people have all arrived and they're interviewing Max. And we see Val waking up with Dr. Robotnik, a little joke from last time, the Eggman. And she goes downstairs to turn the radio on. And again, this is a moment I thought would happen much later in the show. I'm almost praising the writing for getting these moments you expect out of the way and then doing more unexpected things later on in the episode, which we'll get to. And she hears Max's voice on the radio saying that he owns everything.
And then she opens her TV and he's there.
And she immediately packs everything up and runs away, because we've sort of heard before she's conversed with this new fella of hers that she's scared of telling her kids, and now she's run straight immediately back. So I'm also then at this point questioning her psychology, which will be a discussion we have. Why does she immediately run back? And there's an obvious answer of she wants to be part of this success.
Yes, she wants the money.
But it is worth noting her anxieties about leaving.
I mean, yeah, because we said last time it's like the meme of like mining for diamonds and stopping just as you're about to hit the mother lode.
Yeah,
she's sort of figuring out, oh my god, I can control Z this whole thing. I can pretend that didn't happen, you know. Because if she did it like one night sooner, then like, you know, Max figures out what's happened and then he finds out he has the money and she's locked out of it. But yeah,
obviously she's noticed on the TV Max is still wearing the same clothes as he was the night before. So the next thing we see her do is go to her mum's. Is it her mum's? No, I think it's. Is it Max's mum's house?
She goes to like I think she just goes to like a neighbour. And uses their phone because she's phoning Maria from a landline down the street. It's just down the street.
Yes.
Because she's figuring out, does he know I left? Is he still in his clothes? And it's Maria's like, what does that matter? What does that matter? And it's like, yes, he's been up all night, okay? And so she's like, okay. And so she dumps her suitcase into a wheelie bin and just sprints down back into the house, like, oh my god, my children, and then goes upstairs and grabs the letter and scrunches it into her pocket.
Yes.
And Max is pretending like, oh, you're back, are you okay? And because Max had told Maria that Val was at her mum, Val was at Gran's house.
Yeah.
And so she says, oh, I was at my mum's, and he's like, yeah, I figured as much. So he's keeping his cards close to his chest.
Yes, exactly. Which sort of sets off this spiral of anxiety in Val as she's not sure whether or not he knows.
Well, it's kind of interesting because like we see this run through the episode, but also like we know what happened. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of the point of that is I think is her mental state more than any kind of mystery, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Finding out how she deals with envelopes wouldn't solve anything. Like that's just her fear, her anxiety, guilt, possibly if she feels bad about it.
But more on that in a bit. Because for now we see how the rest of the Vivaldi family is responding to the sort of the news crews.
Yeah.
And Candy's response is to scream from her window.
Yeah, we get a blood-curdling scream. When she first screams, we think like it's like a jump scare, and it turns out that she's just overwhelmed, like, oh my god, I'm on TV. And then Claire runs and is shouting up her own street, oh my god, you're on TV. Yeah, and then she flashes herself because that seems to be her main move.
Yes. I wonder if she thinks, because obviously we've seen her on a pop star reality show in the previous episode. A part of me wondered, oh my god, does Candy think they're here for her after her appearance on the previous show, in her version of reality in her head?
I don't know. I think maybe not, because she must know it takes a bit of time for that to go out. You know, it's not live.
Who knows? Who knows what she thinks?
She just like, I think she just is, also because she's so in the moment. But it's just there are cameras. That means she's famous. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's not even relevant whether they're there for her or not, because she'll make them there for her by flashing.
Yeah, by taking her top off. And then there's a funny moment where one of the news crews is like, oh, we're not live anymore. They've gone back to London. Boobs is a bit much for the...
Yeah, too early for breasts.
Yeah, that's what he says. At this same moment, we see Gethin, a.k.a. the actor who plays the guy from Midsummer Murders, returns for Maria, and she slaps him.
Yes.
Because obviously he's now trying to get back in her good books now that she is the daughter of the man that owns Swansea, and she's having none of it.
She's having none of it, no.
But amidst all this chaos, well, there's one other bit of chaos. We see Leo cycle away, making a phone call, saying it's an emergency, trying to get away from the press, because we know he's got this weird sort of dodgy
operation,
backstreet tech business, and he doesn't want this media attention. But amidst the chaos of the Vivaldis, there's another figure watching along at home on television who's rewinding.
Yes, a mysterious woman.
Rewinding to find what she's looking for.
I guess she's not watching it live then, because they didn't have TiVo at that point.
No, but she could have been. She would have been recording it on a VHS, on a tape.
But yeah, she smiles deviously. We'll get back to her later.
Bum, bum, bum.
So now we're with Leo, and at the warehouse, we get that kind of exposition to explain what the hell is this whole thing. This thing we saw one scene last episode. So it turns out he's been running a tech business since he was 13. But it's all done in Max's name because he is a child. And so now he just needs to, he's got to like go through all the paperwork and remove Max's name. Like he's talking to one of the guys there, and that guy is like, no, I'm getting paid to build a wall. And he's like, whatever they're paying you, I'll double it. And he's like, I would rather build a wall. And so he has to do it all by himself and skip out on school. And later on, when he's like challenged on this by Val, he just says, I didn't go to school because Candy was naked on the news. I couldn't go to school after that, which, fair enough.
I think it's interesting that his whole goal is to just remove his dad's name off all the paperwork, almost suggesting to me that, well, I suppose it makes sense for people to start looking into Max Vivaldi's affairs now that there's all this legal attention around him. But it's interesting that his main anxiety is not being found out by the police, but moreover being found out by his dad that he's sort of running this very successful business.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. I wondered, like, what is Max going to do beyond, like, normal parent stuff, Like, if Val finds out...
But it's funny to me because I was in an Uber a couple of weeks ago. I was very unexpected. This dad was basically like, yeah, he gives his son, like, his, like, 13-year-old son money to go and build his own crypto business. And I was like, that couldn't be further from the attitude that Leo's fearing from his dad.
When did he say that his son was building a crypto thing? Because crypto's kind of fallen through now.
Oh, I do not know. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the wisest investment right now. I
don't know if this guy knew what he was giving to his son. He said he didn't matter if his son lost his life savings because it's all a learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't even know what it looks like after Sam Bankman-Fried is in jail. Like, I stopped... Was that the guy, or... yes, he was sentenced. Okay, cool. It just doesn't sound like the wisest thing to invest in right now.
But it seems that 20 years ago, a backstreet tech business was... Because the business is worth £50,000.
That's a lot of iPods.
I don't suppose you've got your inflation calculator to hand.
That's a lot of Blackberries. Okay, so 50,000, 87.5 grand.
Whoa, that's not that big of an increase. Well, it is a bit big of an increase, but it's
still a lot.
He's very successful, but he doesn't want his dad to find out.
Meanwhile, Max knows there's like one little kink in his plan that he just needs to get ironed out very quickly. And that is to get his dad declared legally insane. He says to the suits, hey, can you do this? And they're like, yep, it won't be a problem. It'll be zero problem. And, I don't think we hear from the dad in the episode again. I don't think. So I think maybe they did iron it out pretty quickly.
which is bizarre because at this moment I was like, that's really odd that they've managed to wave this issue away so quickly, given that the cliffhanger ending of episode 1 was, oh no, the dad is actually the legal heir of Swansea. So I was like, what an odd little thing to introduce at the end of episode 1 to immediately wave away. That's poor writing.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Then we get the funniest bit of Candy dialogue. So she's wandering around in her own head into the kitchen while Val is there and Dr. Eggman has shown up. And they're sort of having this like discussion of like, do you need me to deliver eggs anymore? No, I don't think I do actually. I would like to continue delivering my eggs if that is okay. They're all very coded, and Candy is just walking in like, Claire says I'm going to be an MPEG, in reference to the video of her flashing. I would love to be an MPEG, you know.
For our younger listeners, an MPEG is a moving pictures export group, which is a digital video standard for compression of full motion images.
It's like a JPEG, but
It moves.
While they're having this serious conversation, Claire just like says right to the Eggman's face, "Oh, you know, Tina calls you the Smeg Man." This guy cannot catch a break.
I hope that in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, whose trailer came out yesterday, that Sonic calls Jim Carrey the Smeg Man.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop with these Sonic the Hedgehog jokes.
So it's quite hot today. This was the first day that we ate outside the whole summer, apart from when we were camping. It's like late August. Like, what is that about? Give it a couple of days and it'll have been the only time we ate outside during the summer, you know.
This is the north-south divide right here. It's very overcast at the moment in Manchester. It is at this point...
Maria gets a phone call.
Yes.
So Danny says, like, to Maria, "Hey, you know, this is all good, you know, this is..." Because she's like, "This is chaotic, this is mad, I don't like this, there's all this attention, I don't want it. It's like, "Hey, maybe this is a good thing." And she immediately gets a phone call and turns out she's been fired. She's like, "What? Oh, thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much, Danny." So she runs to her office, asks them, "What the hell is this?" And her boss explains to her that, yeah, so we have all these houses and all these prices people were ready to pay. And you listen to like the prices given and you're like, wow, I wish the property crisis didn't happen. Oh my God, I'm sorry, but you need more than an inflation calculator to adjust these.
Yeah, I used to be able to get a two-bed flat in Swansea for 50p.
Yeah, well, I guess they really solved the housing crisis, because now all of these offers are withdrawn. All these houses are zero because Max owns the land. And he's like, deal with your dad and you'll get your job back.
Which is a weird position to be in, because most of the people I know, you know, if they got fired by their job, they'd sort of go, okay, I'll go find a new job, and not try and save their estate, their boss's business, you know?
I guess the problem is if all the estate agents are like this, then she can't find any job unless she saves all of them, you know?
Yeah, I suppose. But there are other jobs.
It's a sufficiently extenuating circumstance.
Okay, fair enough. She's ignoring the fact that she now is potentially the daughter of the guy that owns Swansea, though.
Yes.
There's this ongoing discussion of the fact that, are the Vivaldis now rich? If technically they own a lot of all this land, are they actually rich?
Or all their assets tied up, you know?
Exactly.
It's like when you meet someone who's like, "Oh yeah, my family is one of the oldest in the country," and it's like, "Okay, but do you own anything?"
No.
Like your family owned my family 500 years back, but what are you doing now, you know? So now we go into the council and we sort of start... Our perspective begins on the leader of the council. She's looking very stoic. She's like, knows that this is insane and she's just gonna have to deal with it. And she goes down and Emilia Max is like, "Get off my land." He's like, "Did you get that?" And then he does it again to like get this photo shoot. He is fully embracing the celebrity of it all.
He's living for the cameras, and we just see the shot of him. He just keeps saying, "Now get off my land," over and over again in different positions.
I think he's really trying to like play this role of a bit of an anti-hero, but he's just become somewhat of a villain.
Really? That's an interesting interpretation.
Yeah, I know, like, you know, he doesn't treat the leader of the council well. He doesn't mind that this is not going to be a good shock to everyone else. He's just like, I'm going to be loud and in your face about it and not give you a second to realize what's going on, you know.
Because he seems to me to be just so caught up in the fact that his lifelong dream has finally come true that he just seems oblivious to everyone else around him. He's an unintended villain. He doesn't seem villainous, but he is the villain in the story because he's caused. I mean, he's not even aware at this point that he's caused his own daughter, his eldest daughter, to lose her job. He's completely oblivious to this.
No, exactly. It's just such a busy day for him.
And oblivious to the fact that this leader, the woman who runs the council, her name is Iris Price, she then tells him about the fact that her own mother worked her entire life running a market stall in Swansea to pay off her mortgage, and now Max technically owns all that and it's all worthless. And I think it's a great little moment where RTD, beyond the frantic comedy of the episode and the ridiculousness of the circumstances, it is going to have real human impact on people it's actually quite crazy. And then I think this is perhaps a point where Max takes over into a more villainous role when asked, what do you actually want? And Danny says, well, it would just be something honorary, a bit of compensation, maybe his own bank holiday, maybe an official title. And Max says, no, I want to run this town and I want to command it as I see fit.
Yeah.
And that's when I think he steps into villain territory.
Yes. Danny really living up to the Hugh Grant vibes, which I wasn't fully sold on last time, but this episode I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is very Hugh Grant coded. He's just like, well, clearly I've helped tremendously here. Again, just self-deprecating. He cannot handle Max, because he has sort of had to step into his role of handler, just because he's like, okay, I don't want everyone to hate this guy because otherwise they're going to do him like Julius Caesar. if they did, then everything would pass down on into Leo, and he knows how to handle. He knows how to deal with assets, work with assets, fly under the radar. So I think Leo could do a better job potentially.
He'd make if Max is Julius Caesar, then Leo would be Augustus.
Was Augustus good or bad as an emperor?
He was the best of a bad bunch.
Okay, that's good.
And that's the kind of quality comedy you get when you do a podcast with a Cambridge classicist. Meanwhile, so whilst Max and all the lawyers and this sort of entourage of men and women in suits are at the council, Claire and Candy have gone for a walk with the granddad.
Rico,
yeah, we found out his name's Rico, which is a bit it's a crazy name, but then they
all have like Italian names, like you've got like Rico, Maximilian, Leonardo, someone calls Leo Leonardo as his full name.
Yes.
Maria, and then I think Candy must be short for something like Candela, or...
I've got a family friend whose name is actually Candida, and we shorten it to Candy.
Candida. Then it might be that then, yeah.
Which is Latin and Italian for white or pale.
No comment.
So she's at the beach trying to work on a tan.
Yes.
Because she's pale. No, they've gone for a walk with the granddad because we've seen in the previous scene, Claire, because she's got a dental nursing qualification.
Yes.
She's been given the role of looking after the granddad.
Yeah, because Val doesn't want to do it. Val is like, I'm not looking after him. And so Candy says, oh, Claire's got an NVQ. And then she's like, okay, I'll give you 10 quid.
So they've taken him on a lovely day out to the beach where Claire's doing all the hard work whilst Candy's just sort of talking to all these men who are attractive men.
Surfers.
Yeah, surfers. And a guy comes up to her and gives her a business proposal based on the fact that he saw her nude on the telly.
Well, yeah, you've got to launch your career while people are thinking about you. You don't want to fade back into obscurity. He says I'd give you my business card, but I'm in like a wetsuit. She's like, oh, it's very slimming, and he's like, oh, thank you. And then he's like, but here's my phone number. If my dad picks up, tell him to leave a message, which is it's funny. It's like the tiniest detail that you realize that maybe this guy is not like quite the Simon Cowell type.
No, and the fact that he walks away and then slaps his own ass kind of also helps to give that away.
Yeah. So a boy comes up to Val and is like, they're calling for you, pub now. She's just been summoned to the pub by a little boy, and who else is it but her mum and her mum's friend. They seem to have all these kind of local connections. They seem to be able to run shit. We'll see a character later on who seems to also have connections, but in quite a different way. I don't know if there's like a bit of a contrast there to point out, but
interesting.
Yeah. I thought about this. Yeah. And so she goes into the pub, and basically what they say is, "You went back to Max," and she's like, "Yes, I did." And it's like, for the money, and she's like, no, not for the money. And like, look, money's good, okay, money matters. It's worth going back to him for the money. She's like, no, I went back for my kids. They're like, yes, but now you're in there, you need to get your piece of the pie. And she's like, God, it's all about money for you. You just want me to be rich so that you can then be rich. And she's like, what if that's the case? What if I've raised you all these years working full time and raising you so that, you can meet someone who you can ride to the top and I can get a nice retirement. And so she, she wants it. She really wants this, and she will put all the pressure on Val to get her that piece of pie.
Then, at the end of this conversation, the moment where Val just asks her mum and her mum's friend whether or not she tucks envelopes in or if she licks them. And the mum is really confused by this, and so her friend says after Val leaves that it must be sexual frustration.
Yes. Such a good line.
Speaking of sexual frustration, at the beach, Claire is left alone with the granddad, and she basically says in a rather weird turn of events that...
So when Val was talking to them, she said that, hey, Rico, no touching. I know you like to sort of touch. Basically, Rico is a sex pervert,
Yes.
That's his deal. That's all he's really got going for him. He's very old. He's a sex pervert, and so she's like, "Yeah, I don't mind."
She's like, "You can touch me." This is peak 2000s humor. I think. I'm not sure we quite find this as amusing today. It reminds me of I can't remember his name, but the oldest of the three priests in Father Ted.
Yes,
he's just dreaming of the days back when he had access to young women that he could be a sex pervert to. It's the same kind of archetype of character, that I don't quite think you can get away with anymore.
But, Claire doesn't mind, so...
No, she doesn't. My first interpretation of this is, oh bless her, she sort of... As a character, Claire is the butt of several jokes, and with the fact that everyone, including the adults, call her Big Claire. So we're sort of, even though Candy's her best friend and she's sort of a part of this extended family... She's not exactly beloved.
No.
And I initially was like, oh, okay, this is some sort of only way that she's going to get affection if it's at the hands of a sex pervert.
Yeah.
But I think it develops into something else very different later on.
No, yeah, I think it comes from her seeing Candy kind of abandon her for the surfers.
Yes.
And realizing that connections, power, that's all of it that's important.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in magic tricks until my dog turned into a snake kind of deal.
It develops into something else as we go on.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
We're getting there. But now, the woman from earlier, she's back. She's driven up to the Vivaldi household, and she's decided to try and find a way in. The neighbour says to her, no one's in, and so she's like, okay, cool. So she goes around the back, finds a spare key, hops in, and the neighbour obviously doesn't stop her because he hates Max's guts. He thinks this is brilliant. And she takes away the will. And we heard earlier that basically the suits were saying, Max, you need to get the will somewhere safe. We can secure it. And he's like, no. It's like, okay, but if it went missing, this could really jeopardize your claim because it's sort of the only thing that kind of connects you to the case. So now it's been taken. So that's a shame.
We see Val testing envelopes. She's just sort of got a pile of envelopes and a pile of pieces of paper, and she's just shoving paper into envelopes. As we were discussing earlier, there's no sort of real mystery for the audience here.
No.
This is just pure comic fury.
Yeah.
And I almost think the scene has sort of like a 1.5 times speed on it. She's just sort of frantically doing it.
The sound of the paper sort of bursting out of the envelope or bursting into the envelope. Because she's trying to tap into her subconscious.
Which is hard to force.
Which you just can't do. You'd have to read the book I'm reading, the sci-fi novel I'm reading to unlock your subconscious,
So much so that she ignores the phone as it's ringing.
Yeah.
So it goes to the answer machine, and it turns out it's Max outside the town hall, and it turns out that they've got 24 hours before it's officially Vivaldi Day for the official handover from the city council to Max Vivaldi.
This is very fast for a legal thing.
Yeah.
That's all it'll take for them to sort of transfer the deeds and everything. And we do find out somewhat why this is because after this, Maria takes Danny to this empty house where he does explain the case was already solved quite a while ago, and it's been used as a test case for law students since the 60s.
Yeah.
And so now kind of all that work had actually been done. It was just a matter of linking the Vivaldis to the old Welsh surname, because, no one was checking all the deed polls in Italy where they changed their name. Which is interesting because it felt like from the last episode that they would have changed their name when they got back to Wales, if they were opening a cafe. But now it turns out that they changed their name while in Italy.
They did tell us, but I can't. I'm not going to go through my notes.
No. It doesn't really matter. It's the point is that we now have a reason why this legal thing is solved so quickly, because it technically had already been solved.
Yes.
And why it didn't happen till now, because of the surname thing, and that kind of answers all your questions, brushes it aside, don't think about it,
And we find all this out because Maria drags Danny to this empty house that technically is trying to be sold by the estate agent she formerly worked for. And it was part of her sort of portfolio as an estate agent. But she has been she's been telling people about the dry rot. So no one's wanted to buy it because of the dry rot, and meant that she's just sort of used it as her own personal getaway, this empty house.
Yeah, her little sanctuary.
So she drags Danny and sort of makes him a cup of coffee with the only 2 mugs in this empty house.
There's not even electricity. She brought a thermos of hot water,
And at the end of this conversation about how it's happened so quickly, he sort of then turns to Maria and says, you technically own this house now, this house that you've been running away to.
Yeah.
And this sort of turns Maria a bit, or at least I thought it did, because we've already seen her be told by her former boss, you need to stop your father in order to save my business and your job. But now she's kind of seen, there is something bigger and for me out there. I don't have to go back to this job, which is what I originally thought she'd think.
Yes, exactly. I think ironically, what happens, suddenly having this idea that actually, no, she owns all this stuff, means that when Gareth shows up right after, because it turns out that basically this wasn't just her sanctuary, it was her sanctuary with her boyfriend. So he's the only other person who knows about this place. So he shows up and it's an awkward moment for Danny. But he's saying, well, yes, you own all of this, but I work for the bank. The council are trying to do some tricks to stop Max having access to all of this stuff. Let me help you claim what is yours. And so she's like, okay, is this the first step in them getting back together, or is it strictly a business relationship? And she's saying it's strictly a business relationship, but
and he's sort of agreeing and saying, yeah, it's just business. But I think I'm as skeptical as you are.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the end of the episode, I know for a fact that is not the case.
Exactly.
So now Leo comes back home. He spent the whole day going through all the files, scrubbing Max's name off of them. And Val is like, where have you been? And he's like, I couldn't go to school. Candy flashing was too embarrassing. So I just went into town. And she's like, where into town? Oh, just around, just being vague like a teenager. And so she kind of snaps and she's like, okay, no, you will listen to what I say and do what I say. I am your mother. I gave birth to you. Do you get that reference?
No, but I thought it was funny that
it's Fred Armisen in SNL. It's one of the funniest sketches.
Right. Just do that, but with a Welsh accent.
And then she's like, and also you're going to answer this question. When I close an envelope, do I lick it or do I just tuck it in? And he's like, what? It's like, do I lick it or do I just tuck it in? And so he's just like, oh, you just tuck it in. You just tuck it in, just... How can you be sure of that? How can she needs there to be proof to this? What he's saying is oh, you just do. She just gives off the vibe.
He is out, the whole family, kind of the only one, maybe Maria as well, but he seems like the most got his stuff together. He knows what he's doing. He's probably the smartest out of all of them. If he says she tucks envelopes, she tucks envelopes.
Yeah.
She rips open the letter because it's been licked by Max, like I said.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
And now she knows that Max knows.
Okay, right, yeah. I didn't quite follow this bit, so I still thought that she was nervous but still unsure. There's a bit later where she is with Max in a car and she's trying to figure out if he knows and he's not letting on, but he does. I felt like in that moment she was sort of feeling reassured that maybe he doesn't know. Maybe I did just tuck it in or lick it or whatever.
But maybe she's still doubting. But I think at this point she's leaning very much towards, oh no, I must have tucked this letter and it's not currently tucked.
Yeah.
Anyway, at this point, Max comes home. Grandad keeps saying that the will is missing, and everyone's sort of going, yeah, sure, Grandad.
Val is saying, like, Max, I'm sorry. And he's like, what for? And she's like, just for like generally doubting you and stuff. Just a vague sort of general apology about just all the, just generally sorry. Just generally appreciate you now. Just that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Which is like really, really feeling kind of guilty there. And he's like, okay, cool. His eyes, though, betray him.
There's a great subtext here because now that she knows he knows, they're able to say what they mean without saying what they mean.
Yeah.
Only slightly aware that each other knows what they're saying. It is a kind of performance that only parents really can give in the common space of their house. Their children are around them and they're able to have this, just like Val did with the Eggman, they're able to have this conversation where there's such a deep meaning, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is where Val asks Max, are we really rich? Like, are we actually rich? And he sort of keeps giving these answers where, well, technically we're rich. And she says, no, I don't want to know about technicalities. I want to know if we're actually rich. He manages to get to an answer that resembles yes, where he says, yes, we will be.
But also, like, she keeps him asking his question. And he's like, is that what this is about? Money. And she's like, I just want to know what it all means. Which, I mean, fair enough, because it's a lot of effort to go through. Like, you want to be getting something out of it.
Exactly.
Because if it's just a ceremonial title, then, see if Eggman will take you back still.
I think that ship sailed at this point.
Yeah.
But they don't have this realization moment, where is the will? Max thought that Val had put it somewhere, but Val thought that Max had it.
And so they're like both yelling at all the kids, like, hey, did you put it somewhere? Do you take it? Did anyone move it? Grandpa, did you move it? Rico, did you move the will? Like, 'cause he's the one who noticed it was missing. Come on, keep up.
Missing, yeah.
And then the neighbour is like, because I think when one of them goes outside, the neighbour shouts across the wall, I've got a clue. Was it Porsche? It was Porsche, right?
Rolls Royce. It was Rolls
Royce, yeah. It was fancy car. They hear the fancy car name and they're like, it's Stella.
Auntie Stella. And Danny, who's with them, is like, oh, what's the matter? And Maria says, okay, well, Max and Stella are brother and sister. And Danny's like, yeah, no, hello, I don't get what the issue is. And then Leo says a fantastic line, says, what are you, an orphan? Which I suppose doesn't, he should really have said only child.
Yeah, I think in the heat of a moment, it's a shorter word, it's a more dramatic thing to say.
Yes, exactly.
Which, I mean, like, not all siblings are like this. Don't get me wrong, the sibling relationship is a strange one, not one which I think is replicated anywhere, because it's two people where, like, chances are that if you weren't related, like, you wouldn't really have anything in common, you wouldn't have a reason to hang out, you wouldn't be in the same circles.
Yeah.
But, like, because you have so profoundly influenced each other's lives, you're just there as this sort of quite beautiful connection. And sometimes dysfunctional. And this one seems to be 100% dysfunctional, but what can you do?
No, it's really interesting to see this moment on screen, because as a creative person, but also an only child, I have no comprehension of what the sibling relationship at all is like what feelings you have towards a sibling. It's something that's not in my realm of comprehension, which is kind of crazy for something that's so mundane and banal. For me to just not be able to comprehend it is kind of insane.
And it's quite interesting because I think for me, like, if I tell one of my parents something, then, like, within 24 hours, they both know that fact.
Yeah.
It's like every night they seem to do a sort of consciousness transfer just to, like, so their brains are now in sync and they're just everything. But, like, I'll be honest, I know very little about what my sister does day to day. She's very much doing her own thing. I'm doing my thing. Sometimes, like, in the sort of conversations at dinner, I'll, like, hear sort of glimpses of, like, what's happening, and I'll sort of talk about my stuff vaguely, and I imagine she'll get glimpses of what I'm sort of dealing with at the moment, and it's so different to sort of friendship or more intimate relationship or whatever, right?
I suppose, from what I've witnessed.
You suppose, yeah. You reckon.
I reckon it makes sense.
So you've heard.
Max and Val rush out to see Auntie Stella, whilst Gethin makes the kids sort of have a little celebration in the garden, and he says, he tells Leo to run down to go buy some kava. and he starts kissing.
Leah's like, I'm 15.
He kisses Maria, and she claims to be totally immune. But I don't think she is, and we sort of get the camera on Danny.
Yeah, Danny's looking at it suspiciously, and like when he first like pitched to Maria, hey, I can be your banker, I can be your money expert, I can sort of help you not get shafted by the council who are trying to take you down even now, you know. She's like, yeah, okay, and then he says like, that's a good girl, and like Danny's there, so like he knows that this is not good.
No. We also get a shot of Maria goes inside and is going to go make some food and asks Claire if she wants something to eat, and Claire says yes, and we see an inappropriate comment from Maria about this response.
Yeah.
Claire is then at this point talking to Rico.
She's holding her breasts. She's saying, these are beautiful orbs. She sort of pulls them down. It's like, but they're quite sad. They're quite sad. But if I could help you in your predicament, might be quite happy. But there's like one condition. It's. Let's talk about some age gap discourse, Zach.
Yes. It is at this moment that I realised what Claire's true MO is. She sees that the Vivaldis are about to get into big money, but only if Grandpa Rico is declared insane. So what if she can jump on the Rico bandwagon and somehow persuade Rico to share his massive incoming wealth with her?
Now we're back outside. Marie and Gareth are kissing so passionately in front of Danny, but like between every kiss, like Maria's like, yeah, nice try, you're not getting through to me, or like, yeah, no more of that, and then it just keeps happening, and it's just it's quite painful to watch. And I think Candy like shouts out like,
yeah,
as if like, that's cute.
living in the moment.
It's just context-free Candy there.
She's like a dog, because they say that, you know, dogs can only comprehend what they can see.
Yeah.
It's like if a dog's having surgery on its back leg and it looks at its back leg, it will be in pain.
Yeah.
But if it sees a squirrel on the other side, it will forget that it's having surgery and just chase after the squirrel.
That is crazy. I feel like there's a joke about Chomsky's context-free languages in here somewhere.
No, I'm not gonna. I was about to make a pun. No, not happening.
Okay, that's fine. I made the most horrible kind of maths, philosophy, linguistics reference. I'm sure someone will get it, but you know.
Meanwhile,
it's really hot. I don't want to open a window because I don't want it to be loud, but I'm really hot.
It's okay. We're nearing the end of the episode, and it's about to get even hotter.
Okay, good.
Auntie Stella.
Oh yes.
Max and Val have gone to visit Auntie Stella. And what you want to know? One cool fact about Auntie Stella: she's got a remote control that controls everything. She can put a bit of Vivaldi on. She like the composer.
Yes.
She can turn the lights on. She can open the curtains. She can make the fountain outside the curtains go on. She can make the light at the top light up. It's wow. That remote.
Yeah, the outside lights, the inside lights, everything.
She takes Universal Remote to a whole new level. There's a multiversal remote.
Adam Sandler ain't got shit on her.
No, exactly. And click. I got that reference.
Yeah.
And she's basically showing off to Max and Val that she's living this high, fancy, rich life. And then she starts showing off about all her connections. And she lists off, it's the classic, I know such and such's aunt's, niece's, dog's owner's, brother's, son's gardener.
Kylie Minogue's mum. She's Welsh. She's not Welsh. She is Welsh.
She is. And I Googled it. She's part of a massive migration movement from Wales to Australia that you can read more about if you Google.
Oh, wow. So Stella has a lot of money because she inherited it from her late husband. And so she's been the more successful one. You know, she says to Max, you could never be successful. You opened a chip shop without any chips. She really drills into that point. She's like, I'm just going to the chip shop. Oh, there's no chips. Like really twisting the knife in there, saying that, hey, I know how to deal with lots and lots of money. You are going to spaff it up the wall and it's going to go horrible for you. And considering how this scene ends, that might well happen because like they don't leave having made any kind of deal with her.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation because Stella just gives the will back completely willingly. There's no sort of Max and Val don't have to fight for it.
She gives it back once sort of Max, in his anger, reveals to Val that he knows about Valletta, he read Valletta, because she's trying to like control them both and trying to like moderate the argument. And he's like, how can you be, you know, the sensible one, the moderator or whatever, you know? And at that point, Stella is like, okay, this is above my pay grade. I don't need to be involved with this. I'm just going to give you the will and let you destroy each other.
Yeah, exactly. So we get that that's how our big moment of them both revealing to each other. And Max takes the will and he cries in the car.
Yeah.
And there's an excellent moment where Stella's watching from the window and Val's still holding the universal remote, and she just closes the curtains on Stella so that she can't watch this intimate moment.
It's so funny and chucks it away. Yeah, there are a lot of good jokes in this episode. It's just a funny TV show.
We're yet to delve more into this dynamic between Max and Val now that everything's been revealed.
Yeah,
but we do get one final reveal in this episode, don't we, Louis?
Well, so just before that, Max asks Val if she came back from Eggman just for the will, or if it's for the family. I'm still not sure which one it is, because I think like that's supposed to be up in the air a bit.
No.
Her intentions, like we know what her actions are, but like, you know, do you think that she's just there for the money, or do you think that now suddenly she realizes that she actually does love Max? Because she does say that, you know, I realized that it was a mistake and I came back because I love you. Like,
I don't know. I think I'd like to see more, because the trigger is her hearing him on the radio right at the beginning of the episode. Why did him finally getting everything he's ever wanted make her realize that she loves him?
Exactly that. You know, that's hard to look past, and that'll always be sort of the clue to it right at the start there.
Exactly.
Because everything else it could go either way, you know, all her actions, like.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll find out more. We'll delve into this.
Now, I think this is the most incredible end to an episode we have had yet on the Davis podcast. In all our TV, there has been no cliffhanger quite like this one. Claire comes out onto the balcony, looking down over all the others in the garden, and announces that I've been busy, I've been cooking, I've been making some deals, some agreements. I am going to marry Rico. Imagine being Candy. Like, I know we say that she is context free, but imagine finding out that your best friend is about to marry your grandfather. Like, do you think that's registering for her, Zach? Do you think like that's clicked for her?
I don't know. She might be like, oh my god, that's great. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, because it's just cute that two sort of misfits are getting paired up, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think everyone else will have a very different reaction.
Yes.
Based on the juxtaposition between the character of Val returning to Max for his money or for love versus Claire. I don't think Claire's fallen in love today. I think she's in it for the money.
Oh yeah, no, I think she's the first Bene Gesserit, you know.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, we that's what we leave the episode on. Mrs. Big Claire Vivaldi. 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 Mrs. Big Claire Vivaldi.
And I got that was a Shrek reference. Shrek 2, to be, you know, you started and you ended with Shrek 2.
Yes, Shrek 2.
Wow, what a great episode. This show is so funny.
It's funny, it's wild, it keeps going in directions you don't expect, keeps you guessing, keeps you on your toes.
I like the fact that, like I said before at the beginning of the episode, there are ways that I expect things to play out, certain plot beats, when you know that there's some people are waiting to find things out. You expect these plot beats, and I think it's quite good that RTD, he gets them over this and then pushes the narrative to dramatic conflicts you don't expect and always bringing things up. So like this whole Big Claire subplot, I think that's really interesting and really enjoyable.
Yes.
And really, brings the show to a whole new level.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's, by the end of every episode, there's like a new thing you're wondering, like, what does this mean? How is this going to play out? Because at first it was like, he owns the town, but technically his dad owns the town. How's that going to play out? Now it's like those questions are in the past. Now we're wondering, like, are they going to be able to stop the wedding? Can she marry him? I mean, I guess she probably can, but like, yeah, just what's going to happen with this marriage? You know, is it going to go through in time? You know, last time we were not thinking about Maria and Gareth, But now we're wondering, will they stay together?
Yeah.
And I mean, there is only one way to answer these questions. There's an episode 3, and we will be watching it next time.
Woohoo! So tune in then.
Until then, you can follow us at Davis on Instagram. Follow me at Louis on Air on Instagram, Louis on the Air on Twitter. Zach, do you have anything to plug?
I'm so glad you asked, Louis, because yes, I do. I'm I'm proud to announce a brand partnership with Cadbury, especially working on their Chomp bars, because sales of Chomp bars are down a bit. So we're going to try and get them up, and we're going to be partnering with a winter holiday resort, and we're going to have a Cadbury themed winter holiday resort. And so you can find us at Chomp Ski.
Hey!
There you go. I've been working on that.
Cannot wait to go to the Chomp Ski, and all the signs will be written in a language that I think I don't understand, but somehow I do, because of the nature of intrinsic grammar that we're born with.
Wow.
Apparently.
Well, this now means you can't cut out your reference to Chomsky earlier in the episode, because I've worked this.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, it's funny because Chomsky shows up in an area of maths called formal languages and automata. I will forever be able to say that I studied Chomsky at university.
And whereas I actually studied philosophy, and I never did.
Désolé.
Anyway. Tune in next time for episode 3 of Davis on Davis discussing Mine or Mine.
Bye!
Bye!